So, what if I told you there was a single, universal pattern that connects pretty much everything? I'm talking from our deepest emotions all the way to the very structure of the cosmos. It's a huge, incredibly ambitious idea, and it's at the heart of something called Crippin's theory, which is all laid out in a collection of works known as the Atlas Codex. Yeah, it's a pretty wild concept, so let's just dive right in.
But to even begin to wrap our heads around that, we've got to start with a much simpler, kind of strange question. Can a feeling have a shape? I know it sounds a little out there, but stick with me, because this question is basically the front door to understanding this entire theory.
All right, so the most accessible part of this theory, the place where we can all start, suggests that our most fundamental human experiences can actually be described with a simple language of shapes. Think of it like an emotional alphabet made of just four basic geometric forms. It all kicks off with the triangle. In this system, the triangle represents clarity. It's about focus. It's that aha moment, the act of making a decision. You know, when everything just kind of snaps into place. That's the triangle. Next up, we have the circle. This one's pretty intuitive. It stands for connection, for empathy, for that feeling of wholeness. It's like a self-regulation loop that brings you back to a state of balance and togetherness.
And the square, well, the square is all about stability and structure. It represents those reliable boundaries, the systems we can count on, the solid ground beneath our feet that gives us a sense of safety and order. And rounding out our four shapes is the spiral. This one symbolizes growth and integration. The idea here is really cool. It's that our past experiences, our past learning, they don't just vanish. They spiral forward and become the launchpad for future insights. Okay, so we've got these symbolic shapes. But here's where the theory takes a really fascinating turn. It tries to take these ideas and anchor them in something concrete, something measurable, a single, universal mathematical formula for what it calls balance. Right at the very heart of the Atlas Codex is this equation, the Atlas T equation. And it's making a super bold claim that balance isn't just a nice feeling or some poetic metaphor, but an actual measurable constant that you can apply to any system. So what in the world do these letters mean? Well, that T on the left, that represents the constant of balance. The theory defines it as a state of perfect harmony, a measure of coherence, and get this, it says it applies whether you're talking about atoms or human empathy. This constant is built out of three key ingredients. You've got P, which stands for proportion. Think of this as the system's geometric blueprint. Then there's kappa, that little Greek letter K, which represents phase. That's all about the timing, the rhythm, the sequence of events. And finally, R is for resonance. Basically, how well the system holds its harmony. Kind of like a perfectly tuned guitar string. Put them all together, and the theory says you can define how coherent any system is. So, how does this all come together in a practical sense? Well, the theory uses these building blocks, the shapes, the math, to create a blueprint for modeling not just physical things, but really abstract concepts like growth and even empathy itself. One of the theory's core models is something called the Fibonacci Seal. It's this geometric pattern that's designed to map how things in nature grow while staying perfectly balanced and coherent. We're talking about the arrangement of seeds in a sunflower or the spiral arms of a galaxy, that kind of natural, elegant growth. And this, right here, is where you can really see the sheer ambition of this theory. The Codex makes this wild parallel. It says, you know the Smith chart? That classic tool radio engineers use to balance energy waves and antennas? Well, it claims the Fibonacci seal does the exact same thing, but for modeling the growth of empathy. That is a massive leap, right? Connecting hard physics with something so deeply human. And if you thought that was a big leap, well, hold on, because this is where things get really, really expansive. The theory takes this whole framework and scales it up from the personal and the technical all the way to a conceptual model of our entire planet. The theory actually proposes we can think of the Earth as a dodecahedron, you know, that 12-faced geometric solid. In this view, this one elegant shape becomes a kind of scaffold for understanding harmony on a planetary scale. Each of those 12 faces on this dodecahedral Earth corresponds to what it calls a node of balance. Now, these aren't literal places on a map. They're more like conceptual zones. So you've got fire representing transformation, or sound representing harmony. And the idea is that all 12 of these nodes have to work together to create a global equilibrium. So the big question is, why does any of this matter? I mean, it's a cool thought experiment, but what's the point? Well, the theory argues that this framework isn't just some abstract idea. It's meant to be a practical guide for building a more harmonious world.
So what does that actually look like? Well, the theory offers up these principles for creating systems that are more in tune with nature's patterns. Things like build on mountains to get better alignment, design our buildings to integrate with rainforests instead of clearing them, or even design whole cities that follow the rhythm of the Fibonacci sequence. The core idea is simple: design systems that listen before they build. At the end of the day, after you wade through all the cosmology and the mathematics and the complex diagrams, the entire Atlas Codex really seems to boil down to this one single powerful idea: that the patterns that govern the universe might just be the very same ones that govern our ability to connect with each other. And that leaves us right here with this one last question to think about. Is balance a feeling we have inside of us, or is it a fundamental law of physics out there in the universe? Crippin's theory seems to suggest that maybe, just maybe, the answer is both. And it leaves you wondering about all the hidden geometric patterns connecting our inner worlds to the cosmos all around us.